Denis Villeneuve is a Canadian auteur whose cinematography is easily recognised through his cinematic longshots and creation of ambience, but more significantly, his films that question the human condition and facets of culture. His 2016 science fiction thriller Arrival does just this through its non-linear storyline depicting the events of Dr. Louise Banks interacting with an alien race. Mostly used when referring to physics, inertia is depicted as a tendency to do nothing, or otherwise a lack of change, progression, or movement. When applied to humanity, it highlights psychologically and socially humanity's resistance to change. In Arrival, these are evident. Louise both exhibits inertia and opposes it through her progressive colour palettes. Othering leads to a lack of trust and ultimately fear for other cultures and societies. The design of the heptapods and their circular writing grant altering perceptions that suggest ways to deal with inertia. When considering a linear timeline of events in Arrival, Louise's character is initially painted in muted and monotone colours. She becomes an epitome of human inertia, living in isolation, not embracing life. This is exemplified through Villeneuve's use of long and wide shots, creating an abundance of negative space and thus an atmosphere of monotony and silent melancholy. In these darkened tones is our own reality. While we have good and bad in our shared collective experiences, increased events of crisis have made humanity doubtful and uncertain of a silver lining. But Louise's journey offers a path forward as she grows in confidence, exploring the extent of communication, nearing the heptapod's bright white container symbolistic of opportunity, while the special effects invisible barrier prevents her from attaining it. She soon moves past the wall, embracing life, foregoing inertia. In the final scenes in the military base, a rising sun can be seen in the background. Whilst literally the dawning of a new day, it also symbolises her rebirth as she gains a new perspective on life. Referring back to the linear timeline of events, the montage and flashback scenes are colour graded and brightened to create a nostalgic sense and reflect a lighter toned life, manipulating viewers' perceptions, suggesting their past events and they're of a fuller and inertia-free future. As Bernard states, self-acceptance is conceptualized as an affirmation or acceptance of self in spite of weakness or deficiencies. Chronologically, Louise begins isolated and reluctant to change, but despite these deficiencies, she grows to accept and move past them, becoming a new person appreciative of all life has to offer. Life is incredibly complex, as global issues such as conflict, climate change, and politics threaten the art of living. However, Arrival shows us the potential of communication and new perspectives, unity, and a better world. It also suggests to us that the meaning of life is to live it, with all it comes with, the good and the bad. Othering is a term describing a process where an individual or group are marginalised through how they are perceived, often with negative connotations. This can be seen all across media. The prawns of Film District 9 are shown to be filthy and violent, the crows of video game White Shadows portrayed as diseased and negative, or the Hazaras in The Kite Runner as lesser and inferior. None of these are true, yet they are depicted as different, as an other, to what is considered stereotypically normal. It is a process that has forever distinguished the differences between us and them. In Arrival, the heptapods are the ultimate other. They and their intentions are a mystery and the epitome of the unknown. In the film, the initial response to the unknown is fear and uncertainty, a result of humanity's inertia regarding understanding others. Villeneuve shows this through a scene of a soldier listening to a podcast discussing the aliens, reducing brightness and covering his face in darkness, reflective of doubt, only showing the soldier's dead-set expression to illustrate his worst fears of the heptapods. The composition of the podcast page also includes well-chosen gun advertisements, illustrating the next move against the unknown: violence. Yet the heptapods give no incentive to attack. Villeneuve makes this clear to us in his use of camera movements and shot times. As Danny Draven states in his book, Genre Filmmaking, a visual guide to shots and style for genre films, when showing the alien species, films tend to start with a series of shots starting with a wide, then progressing to a high angle looking down at the human, then a low angle looking up at the alien threat. This rough sequence can be seen in various science fiction films, yet Arrival does not do this, as upon first contact, the aliens and humans are on an equal level, conveying their peaceful means. As with many of the science fiction films, the aliens are used to represent some aspect of our humanity. Combined with the previously mentioned invisible barrier, the heptapods become a metaphor for other people, other societies, languages and cultures. Arrival provides a commentary on colonialism, racism, and needless violence. For example, the lasting effects of British occupation on its ex-territories and the ongoing Black Lives Matter movement of 2013. It exposits the value of communication and understanding in an effort for even the possibility of unity. If humanity were not stuck in inertia, busy with their feuds, and instead focused on equality and harmony, perhaps we'd be as developed as the heptapods. Stuart Hall, a sociologist and cultural theorist, developed the theory of encoding and decoding messages in media. As James Proctor says in his book, Hall's essay challenges all three components of the mass communications model, arguing that meaning is not simply fixed or determined by the sender, the message is never transparent, and the audience is not a passive recipient of meaning. In essence, everything is up to interpretation, as Hall is saying that messages are encoded in the media and decoded by active audiences when viewing. This is highly relevant when considering that special effects now shape how films are conceived. The heptapods and their circular writing can suggest a great many interpretations that impact upon the message of the film. At face value, the circular writing style can reflect the heptapod's perception of time, a cycle ever repeating. However, they could also suggest the importance of unity, being at one with all, or perhaps the strength of communication. The visual design of the heptapods themselves subverts our cultural understanding of aliens. Throughout media, aliens have followed a more or less humanoid design, like the xenomorph, Yautja, or Martians. Carlos Wante, the creature designer of Arrival, said he tried to push an abstract design of the aliens as far as possible, leading to the creation of the heptapod. While Huante stated the final product to be an anthropomorphic whale creature with the spider-hand creature at the end of an umbilical cord, Hall's principle that meaning is not simply fixed or determined by the sender is evident through the design's interpretations, one being its reflection of a human hand, albeit with a few more digits. Expanding from this, they could be said to represent all humanity have at their hands, the ability to create, to nurture, to help, or to destroy, to harm, to control, and the great responsibility we have when carrying these out. Humanity could be synonymous with individuality, or rather, due to individuality, humanity is formed. We all have different perceptions of reality, and as Hall says, different interpretations. However, we are all linked through our shared collective experiences, also known as the human condition. Yet the world we live in is still so divided. A rival could be arguing that our inertia is caused by failing to understand we are all the same, and we shouldn't ignore others' perceptions.
Language is the foundation of civilization. It is the glue that holds the people together. It is the first weapon drawn in a conflict.
Humanity's inertia. On both global and personal levels, we have been resistant to change. We have found ourselves stuck in monotony, fearful of life, of accepting ourselves, of accepting others and their perspectives. However, Arrival demonstrates that communication is key, and rather be drawn for conflict, it should be utilised for development and understanding in an effort for a most prosperous goal: unity with ourselves and the world.